Welcome, seekers of truth and lovers of layered stories, to an edition that will reshape how we read the movements of our brightest talents. Welcome to your sanctuary of insight and exclusivity, Secrets Behind the Stars. In the bustling galaxy of Turkish showbiz, there are silences that thunder louder than any headline, and the one we witnessed around Sıla Türkoğlu recently has been exactly that. Her screen presence, her quick smile, her spirited cadence that once seemed endless suddenly gave way to a hush so complete that even casual observers felt its weight. For weeks, her social pages went quiet, red carpets felt colder, and the absence of that lively rhythm stirred a storm of whispers that swirled from heartfelt worry to the boldest theories. Was this a crack in the facade, or the choice of a woman determined to stop playing a role and start living on her own terms? Before we reveal the midnight call that froze the clock and the project poised to redraw the lines of their careers, a warm invitation: if you value this thoughtful, humane approach to celebrity storytelling, subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars. Tap the bell so the pulse of the famous reaches you with depth instead of noise. And if you wish to be part of the backbone that keeps this space independent and fearless, hit the join button now. Your support helps us meet sources, verify what others only repeat, and honor these journeys with the seriousness they deserve. Now hush that inner chatter and listen closely, because we are about to map the new dawn of Sıla Türkoğlu and the surprising role of Halil Ibrahim Ceyhan in it. Sıla's withdrawal was not a stumble, it was intentional, the kind of inner quarantine that only those who have lived under relentless glare truly understand. After years of answering to every rumor, absorbing unsolicited advice on her private life, and carrying the expectations of a global audience, she chose, at last, not to barter her peace. She dimmed the phone, stepped away from spotlights, and narrowed communication to a handful of family members and two confidants who have known her before fame learned her name. Production corridors buzzed with talk of cancelled meetings and a quiet refusal to play the usual media games. But beneath that still exterior, she was arriving at the center of herself. She was studying her own voice as if it were a role to master, only this time the camera didn't get a say. Insiders whispered that she was waiting for a signal, something precise enough to cut through the static and restore direction. Then, while the night was thick with quiet, the unexpected did arrive. According to information we gathered exclusively for the Secrets Behind the Stars family, Sıla received a call after midnight. It was not a producer chasing numbers, nor an agent pushing a sugary endorsement. It was a familiar voice folded in memory, an old connection who somehow held a map to the future. It was Halil Ibrahim Ceyhan. Their conversation, stretching past an hour, was not about gossip, not about strategy, but about truth spoken softly and straight. Those close to her say that when the call ended, she sat very still, eyes bright with tears that belonged not to sorrow but to release, as if a locked room had finally found its window. In that fragile calm, she murmured a line that has since traveled through close circles like a secret blessing: life can empty your hands, and then, with one piece of news, return them to overflowing. It wasn't just relief, it was a foundation stone. And while the full content of that call remains private, its impact moved outward like a tide. Let's pause here and ask you, our Secrets Behind the Stars family, do we truly need the depth of quiet to find our strongest selves? Have you ever felt how a single call, a single sentence, rearranged everything inside you in a heartbeat? Share your reflections below, we read them all, line by line. Tell us what you think about this new course for Sıla and Halil, and which other Turkish artists you'd like us to explore with this literary care. If you want us to keep delivering narratives with this much soul, press like, and if you want to help us keep the lights bright and the reports honest, the join button is your VIP key to the stories beneath the surface. The surprise that Sıla has guarded so carefully is, by all reliable whispers, a large-scale international project designed to break her old frames. It's not a breezy romance nor the safe edges of conventional drama, it is a naughty, shadowed character study about a woman confronting the echoes she once feared. It buries the image of the fragile dreamer and raises the portrait of a woman who builds her own redemption brick by brick. And where is Halil in this? Not in the comfortable space of a familiar pairing, but in a challenging path of his own. We are hearing that he, too, will be stepping into a role that refuses easy charm, a part cut with vulnerability and flint, an artist's part. The project may place them beyond Turkey for long stretches, asking for new rhythms of life, new working rituals, and perhaps the hardest discipline of all, patience. It's a gamble that signals they are no longer chasing convenient ratings or fleeting trends, but growth. This is Sıla taking the wheel. This is Halil walking alongside purpose rather than noise. Together or apart within the same narrative world, they are choosing craft over comfort. One of the pillars of this rebirth is the way Sıla has reframed her philosophy of living. Sources describe a late-night conversation with her inner circle, where she said something that stung and then soothed. For too long I have worn the outcomes of other people's choices. For the first time, I will bear the weight of my own. That sentence landed like a bell in Istanbul's rumor mills. For years, the story around her and around their names seemed written by outside hands, opinions on their chemistry, criticism on their choices, commentary on their reputations. She always seemed forced to explain and defend. That version has been quietly retired. The woman stepping out of this silence has no need to justify. She has learned that autonomy is the most expensive luxury in fame, and she is ready to pay in full. The distance some detect is not coldness, it is focus. The steadiness many did not expect is not arrogance, it is resolve. In this rebuilding, family acted like an anchor. After the news of the project and the call that re-stitched her timeline, Sıla met her mother for an unhurried, unguarded talk. No glamour, no script, just honesty and tears that didn't ask permission. Those who know her say she spoke with a clarity that quieted the room. I don't need to pretend toughness anymore, I finally recognize it in me. That admission marked a turning point. Where once she chased proof of worth, now she moves knowing it. Her mother's embrace, warm and untheatrical, braided comfort into conviction, and something settled behind Sıla's eyes that had not settled in years. Serenity, not the bright spike of premiere night joy, but the deep kind that makes noise unnecessary. The family received the news with careful happiness, aware that what's ahead is not just a professional ascent, but the culmination of healing she needed in order to keep living under a magnifying glass without breaking. After weeks of digital silence, Sıla returned to the timeline with a post that spoke volumes by saying almost nothing. One unadorned image. No speech, no layered caption. A single word, beginning. Here at Secrets Behind the Stars, we read that act not as a mere status update, but as the first steady pulse of a new life. In minutes, the numbers climbed like a sunrise. Fans, perceptive as ever, sensed that beginning was not about calendar pages or routine announcements. It was a declaration of self and, in some readers' eyes, a page that also had Halil's name in the margins. It suggested a chapter where reactions don't rule, where blocking noise is not anger but wisdom, where silence becomes a tool instead of a punishment. This version of her is clearer, calmer, sharper, and more in charge of her quiet. And Halil, the poet of measured gesture, has met that tone with the kind of presence that doesn't shout to be understood. Dear family, before our conclusion, thank you for making Secrets Behind the Stars your home for nuanced celebrity storytelling. If you haven't joined our membership yet, you're missing the deep dives and early whispers we reserve for our closest community. Click join to support our independence and help us keep asking the questions that lead to the truth. Your membership sustains the travel, the calls, the late nights, and the care that make this work possible. Join now and stand with us behind the curtain. As we bring this chronicle of renewal to a close, one certainty remains. We are no longer watching a performer who merely interprets scripts. We are watching a woman who has chosen to author them, and a man aligning his craft with the same intentionality. The fog of yesterday dissolves into a bolder outline. Sıla no longer walks to satisfy applause, she walks to honor her own step. Halil no longer measures success by volume, he measures it by truth. This 2026 welcomes artists who have learned that life surprises don't have to bruise. They can lift, they can transform, they can soften the ground under brave feet. The upcoming international rollout, with its interviews, festival stops, and late-night sets in cities that smell different than home, will test this philosophy. We will be here at Secrets Behind the Stars, tracking every beat, not for scandal's sake, but to trace the human shape inside the headlines. If this story nudged you to think about claiming your path, press like, share it with those who follow the arc of Sıla Türkoğlu and Halil Ibrahim Ceyhan, and subscribe. And once more, consider joining as a member by clicking join. Your support keeps the flame of secrets behind the stars alive, steady, and warm. We will meet again in the next exclusive, in this same place where we lay aside the noise and listen for the heartbeat. And so we circle back to where the hush began and where it broke. A phone gone quiet, then ringing, a woman closing a door, then opening a window, a man choosing depth over echo, two names that once attracted a crowd now attracting a different kind of attention, the kind that senses sincerity from a distance. Sources tell us that pre-production labs have already begun, with scripts treated like living organisms, rewritten in rooms where daylight fades and strong tea keeps the spine straight. The stakes are high. New languages to navigate, directors who ask for less surface, more truth, and camera tests that leave makeup sponges confused because the face itself is telling the story. There are whispers of unconventional distribution, a plan to travel not just to premiere but to listen, to step into rooms with audiences far from Istanbul and learn what lands, what moves, what remains. Those who saw an early table read described the energy between them as the opposite of nostalgia. It's familiar, yes, but not a loop. It's permission to build differently, to catch each other without reenacting old patterns. Even their teams, once trained to deflect, have adopted a quieter discipline. Fewer statements, more results. Less talk, more rehearsals. When friends ask what changed, the answer, they say, fits in a sentence: everything is intentional now. Intentional is how Sıla organizes her mornings, keeping her phone in another room until pages are read and marked. Intentional is how Halil protects his voice, the one that can wrap a scene or a song in the same gentle pressure. Intentional is the way they adjust to pressure, celebrating privately instead of loudly, grieving privately instead of publicly. This is not retreat. It is craftsmanship. And that is why those who expected volatility have been surprised by stillness, and those who predicted spectacle have received substance instead. If you have been with them from the early days, you know what it means to carry two names that attract both adoration and scrutiny. If you only recently found them, you are catching them at the best time, the moment when fame has taught its hardest lesson and purpose has answered back with patience. Beginning is just one word. But it carries a roomful of meaning, a soft vow to themselves, a plain signal to fans, a line drawn under what no longer fits. Perhaps one day they will tell the full story of that midnight call. Perhaps they won't. What matters is the shape it gave to what followed: a door closing on noise, another opening to work, a choice to do less explaining and more creating, a promise to direct their own narrative even when the internet tries to write it faster than they can live it. We will be here, watching the shape from a respectful distance, listening for the quiet revolutions that never trend but always endure. And when that tour rolls out, city by city, scene by scene, we'll trace the thread from that first silence to the lights abroad, from a whispered decision to a premiere's applause. Secrets Behind the Stars will be your front row seat, not to scandal, but to the honest labor behind grace. Stay close, stay curious, and keep your bell on. The next chapter is already turning.